Welcome to Speaking of Settlements. I'm Scott Drake. Today we have a treat. My guest in studio here in Scottsdale, Arizona is the Executive Director of NSSTA, Mr. Eric Vaughn. Thank you for stopping by. And my first question, Eric, is what's going on with NSSTA in 2013?
What a great question. And at the 8th day of the year, we're getting ourselves ready for this new Congress. 113th Congress just sworn in Washington, D.C. 85 new members of Congress, newly elected members of Congress. All of them need some education about structured settlements and the terrific work we do with injured victims, helping them live their lives with economic security and dignity. And Congress needs to hear that. We're a small industry, certainly by comparison to so many others that are lobbying for time and space in Washington, D.C. So the objective is to make sure members of Congress, key congressional committees that focus on tax and some regulations that are important to us, remember us. And they remember us in the context of the big tax reform fight that everyone is absolutely confident is coming up. So the NSSTA Board of Directors just finished its meeting, first meeting of the year here in 2013, with the objective of a strategy focused on the tax reform fight, but also on education with our members. A brand new set of programs, something called Structures 101, which is really a fabulous enterprise at getting back to the basics. A lot of our newer, younger brokers and consultants have forgotten some of the real serious, basic underlying requirements and demands of our profession. And we're going to go put a program together and focus on those back to the basic criteria. So it's going to be an exciting year. We're really enthusiastic about it.
Eric, you talked about taxes. That's a big topic today right now. Talk about taxes as it relates to structured settlement. What do you think in the tax code is actually on the table, if anything, and what's off the table?
You know, I am a lobbyist. I'm the executive director of the NSSTA. I am the industry's lobbyist. We don't have another one in Washington, D.C. The objective is to make certain that members of Congress fully understand and appreciate what a structured settlement is, why 104A2 was put in the tax code in the first place, and why an injured victim, person, family, deserves the benefits from that tax code section. And you have to appreciate something. Members of Congress are very much like young teenagers. And I don't mean that to disparage young teenagers. They don't have a lot of time, or a lot of time for attention on an individual matter, certainly not something as little as the structured settlements tax code section 104A2. You've got to make them take the time. You've got to make them listen and understand, meet with structured settlement annuitants who have actually experienced, after a life-changing event like a serious accident, how do I put my life back together? How do I meet my lifetime of medical, health, education, family living expenses? A structured settlement can do that. When a member of Congress hears that story, they are moved. Now, not moved to go out and move mountains, but they're moved to say to me, which is a pledge, I'm going to work with you, I'll help to protect the tax code section in this fight. But that's not our challenge. Our biggest challenge is this is going to be a big tax bill for one very, very simple reason. The government needs money. Congress is spending it like a drunken sailor right now. There are very few controls in place. They need revenue. We need to clean up the tax code. So the objective is going to be to go after deductions, incentives in the code. And something like the NSSTA's, the Structured Settlement Industries Tax Code Section 104A2, has been on the books for 28 years. Suddenly, people can look back and say, this has been there a long time. Why? Why do we need this? If you're not explaining it to them, talking about it in real life, 2013 terms, you could be on the cutting room floor, and before you know it, the tax bill's out the door, and so is our tax code section, and so is our ability to help injured victims.
So with respect to 130 or 104A, is there a chance of perhaps some refining of that part of the tax code?
You know, it's absolutely the right way to look at this, and that's a rational approach. And I don't mean this to sound like anti-Congress. That's almost way too easy these days. The tax committees, the House Ways and Means Committee and the Senate Finance Committees, are two of the most prominent committees in all of Congress, some of the most senior and some of the most intelligent leaders in our country serving on those committees. and they're working diligently with some of the very smartest staffers on all of Congress on these matters. So it's likely that what we'll see is adjustments, changes to code sections. What we're looking at is how do we protect, promote, defend, define 104A2 in such a way that locks it into the future code, but also make some additional adjustments or changes. Can we find ways to refine and improve? And if Congress is willing to engage us in that debate, that would be a debate we'd love to have and love to get focused on. Expanding the provisions of 104A2 to 104, all the code sections. It would be an enticing opportunity for our industry. I don't think Congress is interested in expanding tax incentives and opportunities, but I think they are looking at defining those that deserve protection, that deserve expansion, and maybe in continuation as part of the code section. That would be a massive victory in this tax code fight.
So Eric, even with these headwinds like taxes and low interest rates, do you think it's actually an opportunity and a chance to really innovate? Innovate
and be much more basically smart about how you work with your clients. This industry was born at a time when there was defense counsel, but not a plaintiff counsel typically. That's changed. And finding today that maybe the most successful model that works is when a defense consultant, a plaintiff counsel can come together to work together toward the settlement to the best interest of the injured party. You're creating a dynamic where all of the parties can, and I hate to use the word win, but everyone can benefit, most specifically the injured victim. And you've got a success that you can build on. The innovation, I think, though, that's not the innovation, but the innovation is how do we get smarter about taking a very low interest rate commodity in this incredibly low interest rate environment, package much of that, or as much as is possible, that settlement is a long-term secure opportunity for the injured victim, and maybe some of that settlement needs to be put into a much more flexible financial vehicle. Being smarter about how we produce security and security results for our clients, but not trying to be unmindful of the concerns people have today about such a low interest rate environment. So it's becoming smarter, more aware, and quite frankly, more flexible in dealing with the challenges that we face in this type of an economic environment.
So in the closing minute here, Eric, what is your message now again to members in 2013?
Maybe the most important thing is that this is a small industry, but an important one. And we need to find ways, and not one way, but ways to work together. We need to come together this year, next year, maybe as never before, and never since we've been in industry, to work together to promote, protect, defend the tax code sections, our industry's integrity, and build support around those who support us on Capitol Hill. We didn't talk about the regulatory agencies or the White House or the agencies of the federal government. There is so much support for the use of this public policy tool as it's viewed in Washington, but an economic security tool for injured victims and their families. If we can find a way to work together to begin to build a stronger industry this year, and I think we could do it at finding ways to work together on Capitol Hill with the federal agencies, we can come out of this tax reform fight with expanded opportunities, with working with programs such as the Social Security Disability Benefits Program and others to find new and innovative and creative ways to use this absolutely magnificent public policy tool to help injured victims, their families, to live lives of security and confidence. And we're doing it. What a job, what an opportunity. And it only takes us working together, and that's what we have to accomplish. One last thing I'd like to say is that if members of Congress had a chance to meet with members of our industry, and every year we try to host something called Take the Hill. And I know it's hard. Nobody, unless you're in high school, nobody likes to come to Washington. It's time away from your family, it's time away from your businesses and what you do best. But if every single member of our industry could take one day, come to Washington, I'll make this guarantee. We'll meet with your member of Congress, we'll meet with congressional staff, and they'll listen to you and you can tell them what you do. And if you can't persuade them, no one can persuade them. But if we did come to Washington together to meet with members of Congress, we will make a difference and we will be proud of the result, and we'll have a stronger, better, much more capable industry to work toward our goals and objectives of helping injured victims.
My guest has been the Executive Director of NSSTA, Eric Vaughn. Eric, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And you're watching Speaking of Settlements here on the Legal Broadcast Network.